Hello, everyone. Welcome back to what's the name of the show again? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Estate Horror Stories. I'm Captain McKenna, and this is Alex Manolov. So, what are we going to be talking about today?
So if you remember last week, we talked about a client I had a struggle with over a fake roof, and we were able to recover the escrow deposit. I highly recommend go listen or watch that episode. It's everywhere you can get podcasts and on YouTube to kind of be filled in on what we're talking about today. And after that whole incident with the fake roof and struggling to get the escrow for 3 months, she stuck around and said, all right, let's go find something else, which was a surprise to me because, frankly, I think I, at that point, probably deserved to be fired. So she stuck around, and we did the exact opposite of where we were looking, and we went to South Florida.
And it went all very well?
No.
Oh, okay.
It went horrible. We were in New Smyrna Beach to begin, and we were originally looking into land too, that area. She wanted to be in the East Coast. And she's like, you know what? Let's just go back down south. Let's go to Stewart, Vero Beach area, see what we can find. And I was like, sure. At this point, I'm pot committed.
Yeah.
I'm all in. Like, let's find something. So we're down in Stewart, and we were probably down there for. Actually, I think we were able to find the house that she liked on the first week, which was impressive. So I'm like, great, And on the listing record. It said, and this is where the story's going to go, but it said that water heater new, AC new, public sewer and public water, which is great because she didn't want a septic tank.
Yeah.
So, we saw the house, we put an offer on the house, they accepted the offer, and immediately we get the inspector out there, and he's doing the inspection, and I don't know. I actually didn't see the property. She didn't see it either. We were going to see it during the inspection period.
Oh, so you just saw it online? And
Yeah,
put the offer in?
we couldn't. So yeah, it was
I
sight
was gonna say,
unseen.
did you not learn your lesson the first time, man? I mean,
This is how she wanted to do it.
yeah.
It was sight unseen, and we couldn't see it because at the time the owners were still there. So when we were driving around in Stewart that weekend, we saw the for sale sign. I pulled it up on showing time. It said showings unavailable. But from the outside, she loved it. Had a nice fenced-in yard in a good part of Stewart where she wanted to be. And it was priced well. So, we pulled the trigger.
That's what inspection periods are for.
Yeah, that's why we have an inspection period. Pulled the trigger to full 15-day inspection on this one.
Oh, okay.
To give us plenty of time
Yeah.
to figure it out. And so we get the inspection. And in the listing description, again, it said new water heater, new AC. So very important details because they have to be permitted. Those are permit requirements for people who don't know. If you get an AC done in your house or a water heater, which is very simple, just pull a permit. It's $100 and it's going to save you all the struggle for whoever buys it. So the inspector sends me a picture of the water heater. It was floating in the air. Like it was, you could probably fit this Yeti under it. You had the ground, and then you had the water heater, and it was just hovering. Like no brackets. It was simply hovering because of the pipes.
The pipe was holding it.
The pipe was holding it in place. And I'm like, all right.
Good start.
Great start. That's not okay. And then the AC was, it was the air handler. The outside AC was fine. But the air handler itself, for those who don't know, it's typically, in a closet or in your garage on a shelf dedicated to the air handler, And again, he sends me a picture. No shelf. Floating in the air with brackets coming out of the walls stuck into the AC to hold it in place.
Where do they find these people?
I don't even know. I don't know what was going on.
How do you get that job done and go, looks good to me?
Does it work? Great.
Awesome.
Cost me $500.
Sign it off.
Yeah, and that contractor's gone. I don't know. It happens, believe it or not, all the time. Because, for those who don't know, and I'm about to find out, you don't know, but I'm about to replace my water heater and AC. And I know I could get the water heater done for like $700. no permit. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going
Yeah.
to spend, probably $1,000 to have it everything done right because I don't want the headache. And same with the AC. My AC is going to be a pain because it's in the attic, and that's a whole boondoggle, to bring it out and put it in.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I'm going to go through the same deal, and for people who don't know, it is, of course, everything is significantly cheaper when you do it wrong.
Really?
Really?
I thought the experts charged the least amount.
No, believe it or not, they do not.
Wow, okay. Good to know.
So, when you pay to do something wrong, it's going to cost you half of what you really would have to pay to a real contractor. Understandable, especially for people who are in a tight situation. I get it, but if you're going to sell the house, just do it right. You get the money back.
You can get it back.
So those were the first 2 red flags. And then there was an issue with plumbing, which we originally thought was with the water heater because it was floating in the air. He said that the toilets wouldn't flush, and it looked like there was back, I don't even know what it's called. It's coming up through the toilet in the tub and stuff. This only happens when you have a septic tank, by the way. Or unless there's drainage problems with the city.
Exactly. Yeah, very rare happens with
very
city sewer.
very rarely it
only
happens with city.
Only like hurricanes and stuff like that that'll happen.
Yeah. So we're like, okay, we were told that it's on public water and city sewer. Did you find something that would tell us this? And at first he was like, well, there was a pipe because it was a crawl space home. There was a pipe under that looked like it was leaking, so that could be a problem. And we're like, okay. So we tell the sellers all this, and we asked that everything get one, that they get a city inspector out there and actually confirm the permits. So again, we're back talking with this. Again, it goes back to
the city.
Yeah, and the city's like, no, that's in the county's jurisdiction. So we're just going back and forth again. Going to the city, trying to get documents. They don't have them. Go to the county. County doesn't have anything. So it turns out they didn't pull a permit for anything. I'm like, all right, this explains the levitating AC and water heater.
Yeah, I think you could probably figure that out.
Of course, yeah. I don't want them to admit that, though.
Yeah, I got you.
So we're like, if these are the only problems, we're fine moving forward. If you could fix these problems, then we'll move forward. And to their credit, they did get contractors out there in that same week, first week of inspection period, to fix the leaking pipe under the house, which we thought was the problem with the pressure and everything else, and redo the water heater and AC to have them, done right. Permits were pulled, everything was done. The city inspector was supposed to be out the following week to inspect.
Have you figured out this whole whether it's city or septic yet?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
So we call the inspector back out after they've repaired everything. We let him know that the permits are not closed yet, but just go inspect, let us know what you think. He said, yeah, everything's passed, but you still have that problem with the water pressure and the coming up in the bathrooms. So we're like, can you do us a favor and see if there's a septic tank? Because they're telling us that there's not. But at this point, there's no issues with the city plumbing. Otherwise, the whole block would be screwed. And everyone would be complaining, and the city would have fixed it. And at this point, we're a weekend, so it's like we got like 5 days left, bro. You gotta figure this out before it gets real again. So he discovers the septic tank. It's like, yeah, it's in the front of the house. It's actually coming out of the ground at this point. We're like, it was a home built in the 50s again, and it was one of those old concrete septic tanks, not the not like the new ones that we have now, not a metal one either, like concrete. And we're like, great. So he says that this is happening because one, it's either full, which it probably was, and then two, you may have a cracked one if it's sliding like this, which means water is creeping out of it, just messing up the ground around it, and it's starting to slide out. Like what happens with old crawl space homes, especially in Florida, as it rains for years and years and years, eventually they just slide away. Don't buy a crawl space home unless you have to. So we're like, great. So we asked for an inspection extension, and they wouldn't give it to us. So there's 4 days left at this point, and we're like, we got to get a septic inspector out there ASAP. So my buyer, what?
Even after all this, you're still, again, it goes back to the fake roof part. You're still like, let's keep going with it. Do not, let's just cancel it.
Well,
Find another
because,
one.
you know, it was a great house, and if everything could be resolved,
Which I guess they did resolve the first
yeah,
issue.
yeah.
So you figure they're going to resolve the second issue.
Correct. And, you know, and that's the thing, kind of bringing back to the first episode, and again, go listen to it if you haven't, that trust factor that you have to put with each party is enormous. You know, sellers to their listing agent, buyers to their buyer's agent. You know, the game of telephone has to be clear. In this case, we had no reason to think not, because, you know, they were working with us. And in the end of the day, it's more beneficial for both parties to work together to get to the common goal of closing than it is to just say, screw it, we're out of here, we're going to go find something else.
Yeah.
Because then you just repeat the process. And that what I say is probably the most tiring part of a real estate transaction, especially if, you know, you go under contract multiple times and each inspection just comes back horrible. You know, and it's like, great, I just went and spent another $300 on an inspection. You know, I've had people who will go 4 inspections deep before they find the house that they want. So at this point, you know, you're $1,000, $1,500 into inspections. And it's just, you know, it's a bullet that you got to bite, because if the sellers don't want to work with you, you don't want to pick up those problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just easier to, even if the closing gets extended, you know, I mean, again, I've had contracts that have gone 3 months waiting for repairs. Just, that's how it be.
Yeah, if they agree to the.
If they agree, yeah. And it's like, you know, you still got to go through all the proper steps. But regardless, it was easier at this point for us to work with them.
Yeah.
And
try to get everything figured out in 4 days.
Well, exactly. But, you know, if we got something, you know, if the septic inspection was done in the inspection period, it's still subject to, you know, we got to still negotiate in that time. But if the inspection was done, the inspection was done.
Yeah.
And luckily, we were able to find a septic company who was actually there that week on that street. So they're like, yeah, we'll stop by and just, you know, check it out. Because all they do is, you know, it does suck. They do have to drain it, but they already had the truck and everything with them. So it was like, yeah, we'll inspect it for you. You know, $500 inspection. Not cheap, septic inspections.
Oh yeah.
But, you know,
always worth it.
Always worth it. Especially, you know, down here in Florida. You know, we didn't have infrastructure till like 5 years ago. So everybody and their mother is on a septic tank. It's not, you know, you don't just get city public and sewer.
Yeah, if you don't inspect it and something goes wrong, it'd be $8,000 to get it fixed.
Oh yeah.
They could be expensive.
Yeah, septic tanks, you know, they're like sleeper cells. It's the part I would say a lot of realtors and a lot of home buyers forget. You know, I've only had a handful of actual clients who have been like, is this, you know, do we need to get a septic inspection, or I'm already going to pay for a septic inspection? You know, there's only been a couple. And people who have bought, you know, homes with a septic tank are just like, yeah, screw it. Everything works. Why deal with it? And, you know, at that point, you can't.
3 months later, you find out it's cracked and you got to spend $8,000 to get it fixed. You
Yeah.
go, oh, I wish I did that.
Yeah. Well, I told you.
$600.
Yep.
A lot better than $8,000.
Yep. So, you know, we get the inspection done. Septic company comes back and they're like, yeah, this thing is ancient. They're like, we don't even know how it's alive. They sent us pictures of the inside, and there's basically it's like, you know, it's like I don't even know how big it was, but the crack was from the very bottom of the septic tank all the way up. Like someone just was trying to rip it open. You know?
I figured if it was high enough that you could see it, it probably wasn't the best.
Well, and deep enough to see it, like on that little tiny camera that they stick in there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so we knew that was a big problem. And now the issue is not a matter of replacing the septic tank, because city sewer and city water was available. But to do that, and this will happen, you know, the people out there, you might experience this. You live in a rural area, and then out of nowhere, you got public city and sewer. The city will ask you, do you want to hook up to it or not? You don't have to remove your septic tank, but you do have to spend, I think it was like 10 or 15 grand to have
get connected?
Well, yeah, because they have to come out and dig it up and hook you
I
up.
thought the city would do that.
No, that's not how that works. Yeah.
I thought city's running the line. What? You do it.
Well, and I think the same thing.
Because I'm going to pay the city for it. So you want my money or not?
I think the same thing, but it's not how it works.
All right. Well, I'll run for mayor and start doing it for free.
Oh, I'm sure you'll get elected for sure. Go run a campaign
Dude,
in some
it's a
middle of
business.
nowhere town.
I'll spend the 10 grand up front, and you're gonna be connected for the rest of your life, spending however much.
So so in our mind, we're like, oh, that's an easy fix. We tell the owner to cough up a credit because at this point she was cash, or she was cash in the beginning anyways. But because she's cash, it's easy to just lower the price and give her the money that way, because you don't have closing costs really when you're a cash buyer. You're not paying origination fees or anything like that. You're usually just paying your deed and doc stamps, which just puts it in your name. The title transfer fees. So you're talking a couple $100.
Yeah.
So it's easier to just get a price reduction. Say, all right, we'll take 10 grand off, but we wanted 15 because there were some other things at the house that had issues, and nothing major, but she wanted to take care of it. And we needed to know for sure that it was going to get hooked up with the city, and that they didn't miss. There's not a window, but then you miss the initial window, there's a big increase in price. I'm pretty sure. And the seller just wouldn't budge. So I was like, no, there's nothing wrong with the house. After all the evidence, again, no, we did everything you wanted. We got permits for the AC and water heater. We fixed those, even though they were levitating. And now you want us to cough up money, which they don't have to in reality. They just want the price lowered. You want us to lower the price now so that we can fix a problem that was never a problem when we lived there? Word for word, what the agent told me. And I'm like, well, funny thing about septic tanks is when they go bad, it doesn't just happen slowly.
Yeah.
It happens immediately. It's not like you go flush the toilet in the morning and it works, and then you flush again at night and everything's fine. No, it'll happen overnight. It'll happen in that first hour. You may flush the toilet and it works in the morning. You may get home at night and take a giant dump that you've been holding all day, and next thing you know, it's on your floor. Yeah. So the guy just didn't want to budge at all. So make a long story short, like I said, there's going to be a shorter story on this one. We just canceled. No fight for escrow, nothing else. We paid for all the inspections. The guy's yard was dug up at this point to find the septic tank. So we left that property
tore up.
Yeah, I was going to say in a worse condition than it was, but we at least fixed the water heater and AC.
Yeah, I mean, if they're going to sell their house, they're going to address those issues anyways. That's what I don't get with the sellers is, no, we're not going to do that. Well, we're going to cancel it. You're going to waste all this time. Now someone else is going to come in, put an offer in, find the same exact problem, and go, are you going to pay for that? Yes or no?
Yeah, and that goes back to, your point is like, why would you stick it out and try to work with the sellers? Because, well, it's in the seller's best interest at this point too.
Yeah.
Because if we go through all this rigmarole to figure out all the issues of the property, and then he already started going to fix the problems, why wouldn't you just fix it in full?
Yeah.
Now you have a torn up yard with a ancient septic tank sticking out, and you don't want to spend 10 grand, 15 grand to hook up the city.
Not even spend, just lower the price.
Just lower the price. Yeah, she's like, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it during the contract. I'll do it when I move in.
Yeah.
And it'll fix the problem, overnight, because the city, I don't know how Stewart is, but Orlando's pretty quick sometimes when it comes to drainage.
Yeah.
So I figured, it wouldn't take long, and she wasn't going to move in immediately anyways, because she had an apartment that she had to fix up and move out of. So for me, it was a deal on a silver platter for them. It's like, you want to get rid of the house? No? All right, you want to get a finance buyer? Good luck with that, because
now you really have to fix it.
Now you'd really have to fix it. Yeah, it's the same thing with, sellers who try to sell you a house with like cloth wiring or poly pipes. It's like, guys, no one's going to insure this.
Yeah,
you know that no one will insure this, which means no one can finance it. And you're not going to give it away cash, because that means you're going to get undercut. So instead of spending, well, I will say repiping is not cheap. It's like $5 grand. Cloth wiring is like $1,000 fix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Okay.
Unless you have to get a whole new panel and all that, then it's $2 grand. But
I thought the wire would be more than the plumbing.
No, it's not that bad. No, because the plumbing part is tough. Depending on your house, like for Ivala's old house, the plumbing was in the foundation. And I remember.
Yeah, so you got to cut up the slab.
Yeah, so I remember when we were listing the house, I think it was like 2 days after, 3 days after, one of the hot water pipes broke. And I didn't live there, but my sisters did, and they said, this is how it happened. They were walking to the laundry room barefoot. It's right in front of the laundry room where the kitchen is. And they're like, Dad, the tile is really hot. Why is it so hot? And my dad keeps the hot water cranked. Like, his hot water will kill you. And immediately he knew, like, oh, damn it. Freaking pipe just burst. And he just listed the $2.7 million house. But, so yeah, when they
cut the tile, the
slab.
Yeah,
but dude, it was like an operation. It was awesome. They cut the tile perfectly. No tiles around it were cracked.
Just a grout, right? Like, that's what they cut?
Well, it was
or is it big tile?
It was I think it was Tavertine. It was a really nice tile that you can't get anymore. Yeah, and his grout lines were pretty much non-existent. It was like a smooth.
I got you.
So, luckily, the Bulgarians, man, they're good at what they do. The guy who did the floor, and then we had somebody else do the plumbing, but the plumbing wasn't the hard part. The floor was the hard part. He came in before the plumbers to take the tile off and make sure that none of the other tiles around it broke, because then you got to replace those. So he perfectly took one tile out, found exactly where the leak was, which was golden chances right there, like best luck you could have. And then he set it up like they were doing heart surgery on the goddamn house. Like, there was, tarps all around it. There was one entrance into where it was, because dust was going to go everywhere when they start drilling in the foundation.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was fixed.
Wait, so how did he know that it was that spot before tearing up the foundation? Just so the concrete was wet?
Well, it was the hot and the cold. Okay. So it's like, what tiles were the hottest. It's like playing Minesweeper.
Yeah.
He's like, I think this is going to be it right
here.
This is it.
Okay.
So, but then, to replace the tile, he took the tile that he picked up, which was cracked, unfortunately, because, you couldn't get into it any other way. And he brought it to all these different tile places to find one that would match, because it didn't exist anymore. Luckily, he found one. And, I think only us would notice, because the people who bought it had no idea. they didn't notice the tile difference at all, and I found out they tore up the house anyway.
Yeah, they gutted it anyway.
They didn't notice at all, So that little tiny thing right there sucks. So, anyways, when you repipe, to go back to the point of this, when you repipe, that's the only issue. But nowadays they don't even deal with that. So if the reason he had to fix that though was because he couldn't. To repipe that house would be insane. It would be probably a $20,000 job.
Yeah. How many bedrooms?
Well, bedrooms, 5, but then there's 3 bonus rooms.
Okay.
Or 2 bonus rooms. Yeah,
those one have water in it though.
One of them did.
Okay.
Yeah, because it had a bathroom in there.
Oh.
But in like homes, like a home like that where you don't have a lot of walls, so there's a giant open space. You could just run the plumbing through the walls, no problem. But with this, you can't run it through the walls, and you can't run it through the walls to the attic, because that's, way the hell up there at this house.
Yeah.
It had to be in the foundation. That was the only way they could do it. So instead of repiping, obviously it was cheaper to just fix it and suck it up with the tile and open it up and replace that one pipe.
Yeah.
But nowadays, if you have, if your plumbing's in the foundation, like I had one last year that was, they had poly pipes. Not sure how we got it insured, to be honest. But we got temporary insurance for 90 days. Seller actually paid $5,000 in concessions for closing costs for this guy, so that he could pay the money to replumb. And I think I got most of his closing costs covered. I think he only paid like $1,000 plus his down payment, which is pretty unheard of for a finance deal. So he replumbed, and when they replumbed, like I said, his was in the foundation. So what they do now is they'll cut the pipe, cap it off, and they run what's called, I think it's PEX or Flex? PEX. Yeah, PEX piping through the whole thing, and they just run it. Now they just run it in the walls through the attic and comes down when you need it.
Yeah, that's what we did. We just replumbed our house 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so now, since it goes through the attic, when you turn the water on initially, it's really hot in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, these people, anyways, they didn't want to help us. They didn't want to fix the septic. So we